What are the differences between Cadillac's new CT6 and the few years old XTS? I have driven one for several months and the other for several weeks, and here are my impressions. The purpose of this video is to present some details that other car reviewers have missed. First, we will flip between features that seem better in one than the other. Second, we will identify a few areas where the differences don't seem to be very important. Finally, we will wrap up with the single largest and most dominant difference between these two cars. The steering wheel on the CT6 fixes one major issue. On the XTS and other caddies of that era, there are times when you needed to select OK or Accept. In these cases, you need to press the center of the button, but this never works. So then the alternative is to press both the left and right side simultaneously and try to get it pressed that way. That rarely works. I was actually never able to get this OK function, pressing the middle of the select key, to work while the car was moving, only when it was stopped. But on the CT6, they broke out the OK and Accept functionality into its own button. This solves the problem nicely. Advantage, CT6. In the XTS, the trunk situation is much better. Here are photos of the trunk of the XTS with the rear seats down. If you need to use your car occasionally as a truck, then the XTS is clearly the better choice. First, on the XTS, the rear seats fold down, creating a rather large opening between the trunk and the interior cabin. I measured it. The distance between the back of the front seats and the rear of the car, the back of the trunk, is about 7.5 feet. If you have something narrow that fits between the front seats, then the distance is about 9.5 feet. But in the CT6, at least the one I drove, the rear seats do not fold down. So the only opening is the small cubbyhole in the center armrest. Advantage, XTS. There was some kind of problem with Cadillac's dashboard panel covering technique. First, look at my XTS. The leather wrap is still intact, but it just looks awkward. Second, here's a photo from Cadillac's own website showing the XTS, and I've highlighted similar issues in the red area. Third, here's a photo of an actual production CT6 vehicle. It's not the soft touch material, but it actually fits too. Advantage here goes to the CT6, although this is purely cosmetic. This CT6 is in a standard sized garage. They're about 6 inches in front and 6 inches in back of the car. It barely fits. But the surround camera system in the CT6 should help, as it's a couple of inches longer than the XTS. But both are a real pain to park in common-sized garages. For those of us in warmer climates, the air conditioning systems are very important. This is an area where the XTS clearly shines. The CT6 center dashboard AC vents are low, and they don't cool as well. And the difference is very noticeable here in Florida on any day when the sun shines, which is most every day. Notice how the CT6's scrolling sunroof cover is thicker than that of the XTS, and it blocks more sunlight. And shown here is a direct photo up at the sun through the XTS fabric. Although opinions may vary, I think this is important. Advantage here goes to the CT6. The customizable dashboards on both cars are very impressive. So let's start by showing both default views. Notice that the CT6 view is more sophisticated with shading and color fades and some accent design work. But it's also harder to interpret what's on the screen because it's busier. On both cars, the display is divided into 3 areas, and you can customize what shows in these 3 zones. They are obviously the left, center, and right zones. But the XTS not only allows you to tweak what shows in each zone, but also has 4 totally different looks. And each of these 4 looks can be customized to the left, center, and right. Clearly, the XTS offers more display options, about 4 times more. These customizable displays are awesome in both cars. Congratulations to Cadillac engineers on some very nice work here. Here are some aspects of these 2 cars that are too close for this author to decide. Make up your own minds, please, and comment on this video if you want to share your constructive thoughts. The seat adjustment switches on the CT6 are moved to the door, like on a Mercedes-Benz. But they work totally fine on the XTS as well, and the switches are in the base of the seats. You can decide which is better. I don't know if anybody else cares about this kind of detail besides me, but the engine hood on the CT6 is recessed about 1/16 of an inch. Why does this matter? Well, if you run your fingers over the joints between the fenders and the hood on the XTS, they fit and feel perfect. But if you do the same thing on the CT6, the hood is too low and it feels wrong. But if you stand back and look at the cars from a visual standpoint, the seam between the hood and the fender on the XTS is more noticeable, while on the XTS, that seam is usually invisible. So the rear headrests on the XTS fold down as shown, but don't on the CT6. At first thought, this would seem to be a disadvantage for the CT6. But wait, the CT6 has this totally rockin' rear camera mirror system. And it doesn't really matter what you do with the rear headrests. The view out to the back of the car of the CT6 is the same whether the headrests are up or down, whether you have people in the car, or whether it's totally empty. In my experience, tall people do best when they have lower seat support that extends out towards the knee, distributes weight over a larger part of the hamstrings and away from the base of the spine, and reduces pressure point on the bottom of the back. Based on my research, even the extended comfort seat option on the CT6 does not have this feature. But the lower horizontal part of the CT6 seat tilts up much higher in the front. This has a similar effect of distributing the person's weight over a larger seating area. So the extension is gone, but the seats reach up to support the legs of us tall people. My final and largest point is this. The XTS is a smoother ride, but the CT6 is a quieter ride. I can't overstress this enough. The CT6 is a tight and bumpy ride, even with the electronically controlled magnetic ride suspension set to touring. Yes, it handles great for auto reviewers and when you are pretending to be a race car driver, but it's really tight for the type of driving that us normal humans do day after day. The CT6 in normal touring mode rides tighter than the XTS in sport mode. There's no doubt about this. I mean, the difference is very pronounced. And I can see why. The CT6 is larger, but has only the weight of a mid-sized car. This helps it in so many ways, but the GM engineers possibly were unable to get the smooth ride that would be more readily available with a heavier car. And so they focused on handling and performance instead. This is a natural result. And, lightweight is good. But light may not be as smooth as we hope. Even so, with the CT6 interior being so quiet, it seems to have a slightly more luxurious feel. I guess sound is more important than bumpiness as far as perception goes. I measured 8 decibels with A weighting, lower sound levels at 70 miles an hour in the CT6 compared to the XTS. 8 decibels. That's a pretty big number. Again, we are seeing General Motors' emphasis here on perception. Is your back injured? Buy the XTS. Is your hearing going bad? Buy the CT6. Otherwise, buy whichever one you want. In conclusion, give me either car. They both are fantastic, and hopefully this video can help you decide between them. Excellence at Cadillac. I love it.